Hello everyone. So in this video we are going to discuss about a very tricky yet very uh, efficient kind of a coding problem which they call it as the balanced parenthesis. Now what this balanced parenthesis uh, does mean is, let's first understand the problem statement. Now, if you have observed, we in the Pythonic coding language, we specifically call this simple bracket as parenthesis of any function. Like what we usually do, we write a def, which is a let's say prefix of while defining a function. We specifically write the definitions, then we write our function's name, and then in the parenthesis we specifically write these simple brackets to pass either the arguments here, or sometimes we also pass the co-arguments. Now there is a very efficient article written about the arguments and co-arguments. I will post that specific article's link into the video description. You can also go to the description and write more about it, or read more about it. Now in the balanced parenthesis, the problem statement specifically denotes, like if they give you a string which contains specific characters. Let's say in this example I specifically have denoted like this simple bracket is starting at some point and it is ending at some point, and in this simple bracket there is a square bracket. So basically it is just a balanced parenthesis of two brackets which contains one simple bracket and one square bracket. Now in the balanced parenthesis problem, they either give you a string which contain, let's say, some simple bracket closing and simple bracket opening. Now at a certain time, if this statement contains some balanced parenthesis, like if a similar bracket is opening and closing in a similar way or in a similar arrangement, then only we can call it as balanced parenthesis. It does mean like this is a valid balanced parenthesis scenario. But if your string is containing something like this, then even if the letters are present, both the brackets are present, but they are not in a correct order, then in this scenario it is not a valid balanced parenthesis. Now let's give it a false balanced parenthesis. Now why it would be a false balanced parenthesis? Because it do contain one simple bracket open and close, but one square bracket open and not the close. That's why it is a false balanced parenthesis. Now let's think of, in Python, like how we can write a code to recognize if a string contains some balanced parenthesis or not. For that, let's define a function. Let's say it as load balanced parenthesis, and in that argument we will simply, in the parenthesis of that function name, we will simply pass the string. Now for to balance to specifically recognize it, we have to establish a dictionary containing several mappings, and in that mapping we would specifically mention the brackets in a reverse order. Always remember, they should be in an reverse order like this. Then we simply append this. My bad, it should be also in reverse order like this. Then we will establish a simple bracket, first closing and then its opening. This is our mapping. Now again, after that we will specifically establish a stack is basically an empty list. In Python we consider it as list, but for to get a better understanding you can give it any name, but just for the sake of the code I'm calling it as stack. Now, after that, what we would require to understand is a simple um, coding understanding. Now, what we will do, we will simply iterate through the characters of the, for character in load, we are iterating through character. Now, if that character is present in mapping dot values. Now why we are specifically establishing values because values are nothing but the opening of each and every bracket. If you say the second character, it is always the opening, like once this bracket is opening. So if we found out the character is opening of any bracket, then we will simply append that into our stack. So stack dot append the character. After that, we will simply establish a elif condition. Now here comes the tricky part. We have found the starting of simple bracket. We have appended that into the stack. Now else if that character is present in mapping dot keys, means if it is a closing bracket, then we have to establish several conditions on top of this. Means if not in stack, means if its opening bracket is not in stack, or the stack's last element is not equals to mappings any character, then this condition is totally invalid, and in this state it should always return false. And in the end, if we have to find if that balanced if the string is a balanced parenthesis or it is imbalanced, then we have to return the length of that stack, and we will check it if it is equals to 0 or not. If it not equals to 0, then it will give us false. If it is equals to 0, then it would also give us if it is equals to 0, then it would give us the true, means this parenthesis is balanced. The one important thing which we forgot is after the execution of these certain kind of statements, we have to specifically mention, we have to pop the elements from the stack. We are first appending if it is a value, then we are checking if its opening bracket is present or not. If it is not present, then we are returning false. Otherwise we are just simply inserting this, and closing bracket is popping it, means we are inserting and popping, we are inserting and popping. This is how this is working. And if we find a break into any of the statement, then we are simply returning false. Even on top of that, even if after this if we have somehow missed anything, then again we are simply printing whether the stack is empty or not. Once we check the stack's emptiness is complete or not, then we can derive or come to our conclusions on the basis of that. So let's check if this string or this load is a balanced parenthesis. No, it is not. Now we already know it is going to give us the false. Let's make it a complete string. Correct. Now we will again copy, we will again paste. Now it is saying as 0. Now why it said as a 0? Because the bracket simply started and closed, and in the before statement it doesn't actually has a balance parenthesis, because one of the bracket has no closing similar kind of element. That's why. Now how this balance parenthesis is working, I hope you got a full idea. We have to create a mapping, then we have to establish a stack, then one for loop. We will first check if that character is present in the values, means we are just checking the opening bracket, then we are inserting into the stack. Else if the character is present in the keys, means if it is a character of closing bracket, then we are checking then we are putting a if condition. If not stack or stacks -1 is not into the character of the mapping, then we are simply returning the false statement and stack dot pop. That's how all these things are working. Thank you.